Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Angela Ferrell-Zabala, Executive Director of Moms Demand Action. Angela, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here.
It is a heavy day today. As school starts up again around the country, the nation has witnessed another senseless tragedy, this time in Minneapolis. And I want to talk about what we know so far because this could change. The shooting happened just a few hours ago from now. A shooter armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol opened fire en masse at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. The police said as of now, 2 children have died, an 8 and 10-year-old, and 17 people, including 14 children, were injured. Multiple injured people right now are in critical condition. So to start off the conversation, what's your reaction to what we're seeing play out in Minneapolis?
I mean, it's horrible. I think this is every parent's worst nightmare, dropping your kids off to school and not seeing them come home safely. I mean, we're just into the school year, just finished summer break, and we should be thinking about school supplies, back to school night, field trips, and not planning a funeral for our babies. As a mother of 4 children and 2 little ones that are just around this age and a woman of faith, this is deeply alarming for me. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for kids in this country. And today really shows what it looks like when we are not taking all the measures we need to make sure that we're keeping our children, our babies safe and sound so they can be safe in schools and in places of worship.
And like you said, this is every parent's worst nightmare. This is certainly everyone's worst nightmare. As someone who is Catholic, I can't imagine going into a church and not thinking that I would come out safe. People go to these places of worship, they feel safe or they expect to feel safe there. And that's not what happened today in Minneapolis. Mayor Fry, he's the Minneapolis mayor, he said this, quote, "Do not think of these as just somebody else's kids, but think of them as if they were your own." Do you think that by changing the thinking here, thinking that these are our own kids, that could make a difference as people view school shootings in general?
I think we absolutely have no choice but to think of these as being our children. These are our own babies, our communities, and we have the responsibility as adults, as lawmakers, as people of faith, to do everything in our power to keep them safe. And that means enacting gun laws and things that we know are common sense and that can prevent these kinds of tragedies. I think, oftentimes when we see this kind of violence play out, it grabs the national attention. Everybody is disturbed to see that have parents that have to bury their children. You can almost envision and think about your own children, your own young people in your life. And yet we treat it sometimes as if this is some kind of natural disaster, or this is like, how did this happen? Easy access to guns and not really digging into our ability to have common sense gun laws in this country is really, really important. So I today, first and foremost, am sending my heart and prayers to the families that are directly impacting the community all around, not only the school, but the church, because this is very devastating.
And I think in these times, people sometimes say, now's not the time to get political. Now's not the time to bring up politics. Now's not the time to bring up policy. We're sending our thoughts and prayers to these communities. We need to let this community heal. The Minneapolis mayor also said these children were literally praying. Enough thoughts and prayers, essentially. I mean, what do you think is the solution here?
So, as a person of deep faith, I agree. I use prayer all the time, and those times where I need to pull myself out of a space of, either sadness or fear, whatever that may be. So, prayer is very important, but prayer without action is dead. It does nothing. We can't bring these children back, but what we need to do is make sure that we are moving forward and doing everything in our power. Every single one of us has an obligation to protect our communities and our children. Everything that we can do to make sure that we don't have easy access to guns, that we do have common sense gun laws and policies put in place that could have prevented this very tragedy.
Do you think we're any closer right now to a common sense gun law here? Because the Minneapolis police chief, he said he wants to protect his community, places of worship, and children. And every time there's a school shooting, I mean, the pictures are just horrifying. You see children crying, you see parents crying, you see reuniting of parents and children. I mean, it's just almost too much to bear, but we can't look away because this is happening in every community across this country. So, how close are we to a solution, do you think?
Well, I'll say a couple things. First of all, you're absolutely right. Let's not look away. It is our responsibility to protect our children, as this is being the leading cause of death for kids in our country is unacceptable. That's number one. You mentioned earlier about the politics of this. This is not about politics. This is about saving lives. We have people. I have the pleasure as the executive director of Moms Demand Action to all country, and we have people from all kinds of backgrounds, whether they are Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, gun owners, not faith leaders, veterans, and the common theme is that we must do something about this. We must and we can do something about this. And polls all over the place show that the majority of Americans want to see strong, responsible gun laws in this country to prevent these kinds of tragedies. What I am seeing, though, is also not only are people waking up and saying, this is unacceptable, our babies should not be suffering because we are not taking the action we need or don't have the courage to do what we need to keep them safe. They're also getting up and thinking about things like having those conversations with their community members and neighbors about gun violence prevention and safety. Even simply saying, if your kid is going over to a sleepover or a play date, do you have a gun in the home? And what can we do once we know that we have a gun in the home to make sure that it's securely stored? There's all kinds of policies from secure storage to assault weapons ban. I know in this case, we see that this seems to be, from the reports I've seen, seems to be a semi-automatic rifle. And we know that Minnesota is working and has some decent gun laws in place. But this is a big gaping hole here at this point. We know federally we don't have it, and this is one of the states that don't actually have this. And this could have prevented this tragedy. So I see us moving forward in many ways, pushing from all angles. When we look at how big this problem is in this country, it is a public health crisis and tragedy here in this country. And we need to approach it from every single angle, from federal to electoral to healthcare. So we're doing everything in our power to work alongside lawmakers and others that are going to step up and do the right thing to make sure that we don't have to see this kind of tragedy with our children.
I know that people want a proactive approach to be taken when it comes to gun violence in this country. And Trey Gowdy, he's a former Republican congressman. He said this today, just hours after the tragedy. Quote, our system is reactive. And he also added this. What people are crying for now is how we can prevent this. How can we stop it? And the only way to stop it is to identify the shooter ahead of time or keep the weapons out of their hands. So we're really going to have a conversation of freedom versus protecting children. What do you make of that sentiment?
You know, it's really disturbing for me as a parent. I would just say to anybody, parent, caring about children. You don't even have to be a parent, just caring about young, innocent lives being stolen in this country by something that is so preventable. It is not an either or. When we think about Moms Demand Action in every town for gun safety, we have so many people, gun owners, veterans, law enforcement that are with us, that are part of our coalition of Americans that are stepping up and saying enough is enough. Responsible gun ownership is important. And also, we can do that and protect the lives of our children. There's no way. This is not about trying to have a crystal ball and see, what moves people will make when it comes to gun violence. And in fact, I would say we're the only country in this world that has this kind of problem when it comes to gun violence and our children. Mental health issues, I hear that all the time. It's a mental health thing. You know what? We're not the only country that has people that are in crisis, but yet we're the only country that we have to turn on the news and see reports of our children being gunned down in the very places that they should be safe. So I think it is not a courageous way to lead when we're going to compare a freedom over the freedom of our children to live and play without the fear of gun violence, the freedom of them to sit in those classrooms and learn reading, writing, and arithmetic and not have to duck and weave. This is absolutely outrageous, and we're fed up and sick and tired of all the excuses. We want action, and we're going to continue to do everything in our power to get that.
Statistics show that this is, to your point, a uniquely American problem. Do you think by reframing it as a public health crisis, do you think that by looking at that, people will react to it differently?
You know, what I will say is, first of all, it is a public health crisis. It has already been called a public health crisis. And so we don't have to do anything different there. And I will say my part of my honor of being in this role as executive director, even though this is a very tragic issue that we're facing, gun violence in this country, I get to travel all across this country, the reddest of red, the bluest of blue states, purple states, people of all walks of lives. And I will tell you that the majority of people will agree, and you poll after poll will show you that we need to do something when it comes to common sense laws that will protect our families and protect our communities. So this isn't an either or, this isn't picking a side. This is really, let's think about our babies. Our babies are being buried. We have to do something and must do something different. So there's a lot to be done. There's a lot that we've already done. Many states are stepping up and doing everything in their power to create policies and things that we know will keep our children and our communities safe, frankly. And so we're going to keep our foot on the gas with this. And I just, again, want to just send my heart out to everyone who is directly impacted and say to them, in the communities that are surrounding this direct impact, and say to them, we are not going to let up. We are with you, and we're going to continue to fight to make sure that place sanctuaries for our children, for our families, for our communities stay that way.
I think something that all moms can agree on in this country, regardless of political party, regardless of where they live, is that when they send their child to school, they hope and they expect that their child comes back safely. And as the executive director of Moms Demand Action, I'm curious what you think is missing from the national conversation when it comes to gun violence in this country, because in Minneapolis in the past 24 hours, there have been multiple shootings.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think it is not about what's missing from the conversation. I think it's about inaction. Are people not having the courage to stand up and do the right thing? People that are bought and sold by the gun lobby, instead of standing up and doing what they need to do to make sure that another 8-year-old or 10-year-old on the second or third day of school aren't going to lose their lives, and that a family now has empty seats at the dinner table. That is what we're trying to focus on, the action piece of this. The conversation is long overdue, and we've been having it. But I will say the action piece and the components and the leadership that needs to step up, and instead of supporting a gun lobby and being bought and sold by a gun lobby, will look at their constituents, will look at these young lives that are being stolen every day, not just in school shootings like today's tragedy, even daily. There are young people that are being killed every single day, people being killed every single day in this country because of folks that don't have the courage to stand up and do the right thing when it comes to protecting our families from gun violence.
Angela, I really appreciate the conversation today. I wish it wouldn't be in the wake of a tragedy, but I hope you can come back on, and as we see developments, hopefully not every time there's a tragedy, but hopefully maybe we can talk about brighter news soon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.